My prediction, Buck, is that this is going to deal a long-form sort of litigation, major battle. There will be top lawyers who are making thousands and thousands of dollars an hour arrayed on both sides. And I feel as if Elon Musk still may purchase Twitter, and he's trying to get a better deal because since this agreement occurred back in April, the bottom has fallen out of the stock market and every stock is down a lot. Elon Musk announced that he is now no longer going to buy Twitter for $44 billion, $54.20 a share. Immediately, Twitter said they continue to believe that this deal is in effect and that they will be suing in Delaware, which is where many of the largest corporations are located, and that they will be seeking, as a part of that lawsuit, to enforce the agreement for Elon Musk to buy this company for $54.20 a share. Now, bunch of different details here that I think are significant in terms of the larger media ecosystem as we come up on the midterms and who owns the company. Certainly, we have talked a great deal about this on the program. Twitter stock, as we speak, down $3 a share, nearly 10%, $20 below the purchase price that Elon Musk had said he was going to be buying the company for. My prediction, Buck, is that this is going to deal a long-form sort of litigation, major battle. There will be top lawyers who are making thousands and thousands of dollars an hour arrayed on both sides. And I feel as if Elon Musk still may purchase Twitter, and he's trying to get a better deal because since this agreement occurred back in April, the bottom has fallen out of the stock market and every stock is down a lot.
Well, usually you'd see a situation like this and assume the cost of litigation would be so high that clearly it can't be a strategy that the person would employ if they still wanted to buy the company. But when you are the richest man on the planet, it turns
you can
out
afford a few
that,
lawyers.
Yeah, your decision to have this go to the lawyers for a while is not necessarily going to change much of anything for you. I don't know. I don't think that he's going to end up buying Twitter, which is disappointing. And I do think that there will be likely a backlash. I think you and I agree on this one, where Twitter will, once it's in the clear, and they know that Elon will not. Because what I've always wanted to see, I've said this all along, because I think it'd be so interesting. I mean, imagine if somebody came along and bought the New York Times.
Yeah.
And they decided, I'm going to release all of the internal communications about news stories, all the biased editorial stuff going, everything, so that people can just crowdsource it, right? I mean, imagine if someone did that. That is, in a sense, what would be possible here. I don't think he would put it all out there, but Elon certainly could have looked into what Twitter was doing to suppress conservatives all along. And that's, I think, where that's where we're going to be missing out here, because what Twitter has done up to this point in order to skew the conversation, I mean, I think Twitter may have delivered elections in a sense to Democrats if you were really to do the analysis.
I think certainly.
I think Twitter has been, and you'd say, oh, well, not that many people are on it. Yeah, but it's such a feeder for the entire news ecosystem and the ability, even just to take the Asheville mask incident of 2022 for a second. I mean, 80% of people know that the people in Asheville with the N95s on walking around outside are crazy. It's not the sense you get from Twitter, though. Twitter, It's it's very normal. It's not normal at all. These people are nuts.
Yeah, and what Elon is saying, by the way, as justification for why he is not purchasing the company, is he's saying that the data stream, the fire hose of data that Twitter provided for him, shows that way more of the accounts on Twitter are bots than Twitter has claimed. Twitter claims that around 5% of the accounts on the site are bots. Elon Musk is arguing that it's far more than that. And if that is in fact true, remember, only about 20% of the American population is on Twitter in any way. 1 in 5 of you theoretically out there listening, and probably a lot of you super frustrated when Trump got kicked off of Twitter may have said, hey, I'm going to Getter, I'm going to Truth Social. Or I think a lot of people increasingly are just saying, I don't need social media in my life. I hear from a lot of people saying that, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the amount of time suck that can involve. And I'm not on there, Buck, for really super personal things, right? I don't know what's going on in my high school friends or college friends on Facebook. I don't spend any time there. But if this were true, then only 20% of people, according to Twitter's own numbers, are on Twitter. And only 1 in every 50 people ever bothers to actually send a tweet with their own opinion on it. If those numbers are exaggerated, Twitter is even less influential in terms of raw numbers than it would argue that it is. So that's why I think the ultimate outcome here is going to be that Elon Musk decides to buy Twitter for a lower price, and there's an acknowledgement that some of the representations by Twitter were not otherwise accurate. Because I don't think the court is going to order specific performance here. There are damages, clearly, but the idea that you would order someone, hey, you have to buy this company, seems like a difficult corporate perspective for any Delaware court to adopt.
Yes, and I think that this will be interesting for how it affects Truth Social and Getter and some of the other platforms out there, too, that are already devoted to free Parler, already devoted to free speech principles. One of the things you see on the internet is that there's usually a winner when it comes to there's usually a winner, and then maybe space for one beyond that, maybe two.
The Coke Pepsi
and
effect,
that's kind of it usually. So we'll see what ends up happening on these various platforms. But I would love to see Elon buy it. I think there's some other things. Clay, some people. Tell Elon there's some other acquisitions he should consider making that would be very helpful for the purposes of free speech, and more than that, even showing the machinery of Democrat speech suppression that has been underway. I'm also just sitting here. I'm still just amazed. I mean, CNN all day long runs January 6th stuff. You aware of this? Of some version.
I've not had CNN on.
I mean, so I sit here in the New York studio.
You've got all the different
we've got
news.
monitors from all the different, and they've got the scrolling text at the bottom. So even though I can't hear what they're saying, I can read it and I can see what's going on. And it's CNN to this day, honestly, every day it does hours of some version of January 6th coverage. And I think it's because they honestly don't know what else they can do, because their audience is so conditioned to be obsessed with this stuff. And it just reminds me of the Twitter situation, because what you see, a lot of the media offerings that are out there are all about catering to a very thin wedge of the American electorate.
Well, CNN internally, there are reports that many of their employees are losing their minds because CNN is trying to play it straighter as a typical news organization. Now, in quotation marks, straighter, because we know how slanted they are. But there is a desperation as their ratings are plummeting more and more. And the sugary sweetness of the Trump era was actually far more beneficial to CNN and MSNBC than it has been to Fox News. In fact, if you look at the data, Fox News has continued to expand its audience even without Trump. CNN and MSNBC have fallen completely off the radar. They've collapsed as news organizations because he was their reason for being, and they still have not been able in 18 months of the Biden administration to figure out how to replace him. Trump is the star on the television show that is suddenly gotten killed off, and there's nothing else left in the television show. You remember, Buck, this happened to me when it came to Billions, and spoiler alert here, I really enjoyed the Axelrod character that was, Bobby Axelrod, I think, right, who was on that show.
He's an Irish actor, interestingly enough, yeah.
Yeah, Damian Lewis, I think, who was incredible on Homeland before. But both of those shows, Homeland and Billions, as soon as he was gone, I was like, I don't really care about this show anymore. And that's where I feel like the Trump show for CNN and for MSNBC is sort of eerily paralleled there.
Still waiting for you to start watching Peaky Blinders. You can
I
be
finished
like, Tommy
Stranger
Shelby.
Things 4, really entertaining. And what you'll be happy to know, Buck, you got engaged. Much less serious news. In the Travis household, we have agreed to begin watching Peaky Blinders. Laura and I.
That's what we like to hear, Clay. It's the right move.
I'm excited to watch it after you gave its full-throated endorsement, unlike your teardown of the Batman movie.
I don't know if we have to keep reminding the audience about my Batman feelings, by the way, all right?
I just want to make it clear that it's your hating of Batman, not mine. My Twitter feed, I actually went in. The number of people that were telling me, hey, Peaky Blinders, Buck's right about this, you got to trust him, was high. So you are roundly being
and you get this treat, too, because it's a great show on its own. And then Tom Hardy makes an appearance and is a recurring character as an Orthodox Jewish North London gangster in the 1920s. It is amazing.
I can't wait. I'm actually pretty excited to watch. I love England, and in fact, I want to get back over there sooner rather than later. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I love the idea of going back into the 1920s and diving into the show. The one thing I'm a bit nervous about is when you commit to a show that already has 5 or 6 seasons, that's a lot of hours of viewing.
You're going to rip through it quickly.
That's the plan.